Hello, my name's David Mackay. I'm going to tell you about a new system for pre-qualification of vaccines against foot and mouth disease and other similar transboundary diseases that is being developed by the European Commission for the Control of Foot and Mouth Disease. This slide lists the topics that we're going to cover in this presentation and provides links to each of the questions that we're going to answer. We're going to look at what is pre-qualification, why EU FMD is interested in setting up a procedure for qualification, who is going to use that procedure once it's set up, how will it operate. We'll then look at a few of the key features and the timescale over which it's envisaged that this system will be delivered. Pre-qualification is a system for independent peer review of information on a vaccine to ensure that it meets at least the minimum internationally accepted standards for vaccines that are defined in the OIE terrestrial manual. Pre-qualification involves a review of information on 4 aspects related to the vaccine. First, information on the pharmaceutical quality. This includes the method of manufacture and the quality control procedures that are applied during the production of the vaccine. In some regions, this is termed chemistry, manufacturing and control. Second, there is an evaluation of the safety of the vaccine. Safety in relation to target animals, to users of the vaccine, to consumers of products from vaccinated animals, and safety to the environment. Third, there's an evaluation of the efficacy of the product in terms of whether the claims made for the product are supported by the data in the application. And finally, there is an evaluation of the standards of manufacture to ensure that manufacture is carried out according to the principles for good manufacturing practice that are defined in the OIE terrestrial manual. As part of its current work programme, the European Commission for the Control of Foot and Mouth Disease is undertaking a number of activities with the aim of promoting vaccine security. By vaccine security, we mean ensuring that a sufficient supply of appropriate and high quality vaccines are available when needed. Putting in place a system for pre-qualification allows the evaluation of quality to be separated from the other elements of procurement, and this is of considerable advantage both in routine procurement situations and when vaccines are required in emergency situations. It also means that the scientific review is carried out by independent experts and is a separate procedure from the evaluation of other components that takes place during procurement. Information on vaccines which are already pre-qualified is made available by publication of a list of pre-qualified vaccines on the EU FMD website. The intention is that pre-qualification will form part of a wider system of assuring the availability of quality assured vaccines that is termed assured emergency supply options. As a byproduct of setting up this system, the pre-qualification procedure brings together all of the stakeholders that are necessary to assure the supply of quality vaccines, including regulators, reference laboratories, manufacturers, and international organisations. There are 2 main users for a system of pre-qualification for vaccines. The first of these are manufacturers for whom pre-qualification offers a system for independent peer review of the quality of their vaccines. Provided that vaccines are shown to meet at least the minimum accepted international standards, they are then included on a list of pre-qualified vaccines which will be published on the EU FMD website. It's important to emphasise that pre-qualification is not itself a regulatory procedure. Regulatory approval involves scrutiny by a national regulatory authority, as a result of which a licence or authorisation is granted to sell a product on a national market. The relationship between regulatory approval and pre-qualification is that only vaccines that have been approved by at least one national regulatory authority will be eligible to apply for pre-qualification. The second group of users is risk managers and procurement managers. By consulting a list of pre-qualified vaccines, risk managers can be assured of the quality of vaccines available on the market. Here again, it's important to emphasise that pre-qualification provides an assurance of the quality and properties of a vaccine, but does not and cannot evaluate its fitness for purpose for a particular epidemiological purpose. Risk managers and procurement managers will therefore need to assure themselves, partly on the information available from pre-qualification, that a particular vaccine is indeed fit for the purpose for which it is intended to be used. This slide explains how the process of pre-qualification is intended to work. First, a manufacturer has to obtain a licence in the country or region through the regulatory procedure that operates in that country. There usually follows a period in which experience is gained from use of the vaccine in the country or region in which it has been approved. Once sufficient experience is gained, the manufacturer can submit an application to EU FMD for pre-qualification. This application is accompanied by a product summary file, providing a dossier of information that is required for the scientific review, together with a current certificate of good manufacturing practice and evidence that supports the ability of the manufacturer to produce the vaccine to an appropriate and consistent quality. The EU FMD then convenes an evaluation team involving experts in all of the disciplines that are necessary to review this application. The evaluation team will prepare a report on their evaluation, including a recommendation on whether or not the vaccine meets the criteria for pre-qualification. Where necessary, the team may contact the applicant to request additional information or clarification. The final recommendation from the evaluation team will then be considered by a standing committee that is proposed to be established to provide oversight of the pre-qualification procedure. This committee will make the final decision on pre-qualification, as a result of which EU FMD will include pre-qualified vaccines onto a list published on their website. In any situation where the review identifies either gaps or deficiencies in the data submitted, applicants will be able to apply again, providing additional information or data to address the issues that have been identified. It's useful to highlight a few of the key considerations that were taken into account when developing this proposal. The approach outlined in this proposal was developed by a technical advisory group on pre-qualification that was convened by EU FMD. The group comprised experts from all of the main stakeholder groups, including OIE and WHO as partner organisations, regulatory experts from the Veterinary Medicines Directorate in the UK and ANMV in France, and from companies with practical experience of manufacturing vaccines against vast diseases. The approach follows in principle the procedure that is followed by the WHO in pre-qualifying vaccines for human use. The group needed to adapt the approach followed by WHO to take into account the particular needs, resources and infrastructure that exists in the veterinary domain. The approach developed is consistent with and complementary to the approach followed by OIE for their vaccine bank, and OIE experts were involved as partners throughout the development of the proposal. The PQ procedure is intended to be put in place in the first instance for vaccines against foot and mouth disease. Once experience has been gained, the intention is to open up the procedure to vaccines against a wider range of fast diseases. The new regulation on veterinary medicines that will come into application in the EU from 2022 envisages that the European Medicines Agency will adopt opinions on vaccines to be used exclusively outside the European Union, in a similar way that opinions have been adapted for human vaccines for a number of years. On the human side, cooperation takes place between the EMA and WHO so that EMA opinions can be taken into account in the pre-qualification decisions of the WHO. A similar approach is envisaged in the case of veterinary vaccines once an appropriate framework has been agreed between EMA and EU FMD and put into place. Finally, it's important to emphasise that the proposal foresees the formation of a standing committee on pre-qualification. EU FMD envisages involvement of senior staff from OIE and FAO in this committee to provide oversight, consistency and endorsement of final decisions on pre-qualification. EU FMD will continue to consult and seek engagement of these organisations as this proposal moves from conception to implementation. This slide lays out the next stages in development of this proposal. This overview is based on the document called A Pre-Qualification Procedure for Vaccines Against Fast Diseases that will be published by EU FMD before the end of 2020, now that a consultation with stakeholders has been completed. The inception phase of the project will take place during 2021. The next step is submission of this proposal for endorsement by the General Session in April 2021. The operational phase of the project is planned from 2022 and will start with an initial invitation to companies to submit applications for PQ on a volunteer basis. After a sufficient period to gain experience from both the perspective of applicants and the EU FMD has been gained, the procedure will be reviewed and optimised, and at that stage, extension to other fast diseases will be considered. Thank you very much for your attention, and please send any questions or comments to david.mackay@fao.org. Thank you.